There are places on Earth that were never meant for humans. Lands where nature seems determined to strip life away, day after day. Where the heat can melt your skin, the cold can crush your lungs, and every step teeters on the edge of death. If you were dropped there, you could lose your life in minutes. And yet, strangely, thousands of people continue to live in these places generation after generation. Not because they're trapped, but because they choose to stay. What chilling secret lies hidden beneath these deadly landscapes? Join us as we count down the 10 most extreme places on Earth. And brace yourself, because number 10 is a nightmare you would never want to set foot in. Hidden among the sheer cliffs of Ethiopia, there exists a place where the journey just to reach it feels like stepping into a life or death trial. This is Abuna Yemata, often called the most dangerous church in the world. Carved directly into sandstone in the 5th century, this structure clings to a height of over 650 feet, as if it doesn't belong to the human world at all. People say it's one of the most difficult places of worship to access on Earth, and just looking up at it is enough to make your throat tighten. There's no easy path, only one way up, a climb that takes nearly 2 hours. You have to take off your shoes, grip the rock with your bare hands, and edge along steep cliffs with almost no foothold. Near the end, the path disappears completely, leaving nothing but a vertical rock face where every step becomes a gamble with your own life. There may be guides and safety ropes, but sometimes that sense of security exists only in your imagination. And if you think making it to the top is the end, it's not coming down is the real challenge. That's when you're forced to face the abyss directly in front of you. Each step backward becoming a test of your nerves, where gravity seems stronger and your legs suddenly feel far less reliable. If you're afraid of heights, this is definitely not a place for you. In fact, just standing there and looking is enough. Your heart will have already made the climb before you do. Leaving behind the blazing cliffs of Ethiopia, the journey suddenly throws us to the very edge of survival's Spiti Valley. The cold desert in the sky of India. A land vast beyond comprehension, yet almost empty, where silence doesn't just exist, it suffocates. They call it Little Tibet, where the greeting Julie drifts softly through air so thin that every breath feels like it's borrowed from life itself. To reach Kasa, you step into a test with no mercy. Roads as thin as threads cling to cliffs above hundreds of meters of empty space, where a single mistake could end everything. The weather shifts like a volatile mood, and the air is so thin that simply standing still can make your heart race as if you've just escaped danger. And yet, just when you feel like you can't go any further, the Himalayas reveal a surreal beauty, as if offering a ruthless reward to those who make it through. Then, at over 13,000 feet, Key Monastery appears not like a structure, but like an illusion, defying gravity. White buildings stacked upon one another, clinging to the mountainside as if a stronger gust of wind could send them tumbling down, yet they've stood there for centuries. Inside lies a self-contained world, where children are sent from a young age, and where the monastery provides everything from daily meals to an entire way of life. Here, children study scriptures and play like any others, while monks retreat into near-total darkness inside meditation caves, where a single beam of light becomes their only anchor. It may sound peaceful, but try sitting still for just a few minutes without your phone, and most people would feel a quiet sense of panic creeping in. Spiti isn't just harsh, it's unforgiving. It wears down the body, tests your limits, and forces you to confront yourself. And yet, in a place where life feels most fragile, people discover something incredibly powerful: the ability to control the mind. And when you leave, you may still be the same person, but you will never see the world the same way again. If the harsh winds and snow of Spiti Valley still aren't enough to make you hesitate, then the soldiers of 20th century Europe will force you to think again. Leaving behind the spiritual winds of India, we throw ourselves into the razor-sharp, snow-covered peaks of the Dolomites in Italy. And suspended at nearly 2,800 meters on Monte Cristallo, there is a small brick structure perched precariously in mid-air. Welcome to Bivacco Bussa di Perero, often called the loneliest house in the world. Built between 1915 and 1917, this was never a scenic mountain retreat. This seemingly illogical structure was a shelter constructed by Italian soldiers directly onto a vertical cliff, meant to withstand Austro-Hungarian forces during the brutal campaign known as the War in Ice and Snow. Just looking at it raises a question that almost paralyzes common sense. By what miracle, or what level of sheer desperation, did they haul every brick, every beam of wood up this inverted wall of rock? Clearly, the cost of transportation back then was paid in blood and lives. So what does this penthouse in the clouds actually offer? Push open its fragile wooden door, and inside you'll find nothing more than a tiny freezing room with a few time-worn chairs. No fireplace, no room service, and it would surely earn 0 stars in any travel guide when it comes to comfort. But a century ago, those thin brick walls were the only thing standing between the soldiers and the Grim Reaper. Today, there are only 2 ways to reach this piece of history, either by helicopter or by exhausting yourself on a grueling 5-hour climb along Via Ferrata routes. And make no mistake, this is not a casual scenic walk. Clinging to a sheer cliff, you become a target for sudden rockfalls crashing down from above. Mountain weather can turn in an instant, unleashing violent snowstorms and transforming the very steel cables you rely on into towering lightning rods. As your strength fades and the air grows thinner, it takes just one slip on wet rock or a sudden wave of dizziness for the price to be a free fall into the bottomless abyss below. Amid the biting cold of the Dolomites, Bivacco Busa di Perero has stood there for over a century. It feels like a silent monument, reminding us that when pushed to the edge, human beings don't just learn to fly, they can build homes in the sky. Leaving behind the bone-cutting cold of Europe's cliffs, we plunge into the suffocating, humid green lungs of the Papua rainforest. Here, people don't carve homes into mountains. They choose to live among the clouds. Welcome to the Korowai tribe, a place where houses don't rise from the ground, but cling to treetops at an average height of 12 meters. Some even reach staggering heights of up to 45 meters, meaning you're living in a leaf-thatched hut nearly as tall as the Statue of Liberty. Even more astonishing, these architectural feats are built without hammers, nails, or measuring tools. They use massive banyan trees as pillars, line the floors with sago palm bark, and bind everything together with tough rattan fibers. The only way up is a notched log ladder, carved into a single tree trunk and leaning precariously against the structure. With every step, the ladder shakes violently, a perfect doorbell that alerts the family someone is coming. Why make life this difficult? The height helps them avoid poisonous insects, snakes, bloodthirsty predators, and even troublesome neighbors. But the ultimate reason carries a chilling edge. They want to stay far away from the hungry spirits, believed to wander the forest floor at night. In fact, a traditional housewarming ritual for newlyweds involves pounding loudly on the walls through the night, just to frighten those spirits away. Deep within the dark jungle, the Korowai survive on sago starch, bloody wild boar hunts using bows and arrows. And at times, they rely on magic arrows to call upon the spirits in times of hunger. Watching these small figures move swiftly high above the ground, you begin to understand one simple truth. To survive at the edge of the world, sometimes the best choice is to leave the ground behind. Leaving behind the suffocating canopy of Papua, we return once again to sheer cliffs, but this time to touch the gateway to heaven. Welcome to Meteora, Greece. In the local language, Meteora means suspended in mid-air. And no name could be more fitting for the 6 Eastern Orthodox monasteries that cling, almost impossibly, to towering sandstone pillars, rising up to 550 meters high. Whether they were hermits seeking spiritual solitude in the 9th century, or monks fleeing war in the 14th century, they all shared one radical idea: build where the enemy's blade could never reach. But how were they built? With fragile baskets, pulleys, and endurance beyond human limits. It took 22 years just to haul materials to the top, and another 20 years to complete the structures. Imagine yourself sitting in a basket, dangling in mid-air, entrusting your life to a rope that, according to legend, was only replaced when it broke. This wasn't just construction, it was a life-or-death gamble, powered by faith. Home to breathtaking 16th century frescoes and once serving as a refuge for Greek fighters in the 18th century, this UNESCO World Heritage Site stands as a monument to human will. Today, although only a handful of monks remain, you no longer have to risk your life in those hanging baskets. Since the 1920s, thousands of stone steps have been carved into the cliffs, and in some places, modern lift systems are available. It's no surprise this surreal landscape has appeared in blockbusters like James Bond and Game of Thrones. Today, the skies above Meteora are also sliced by paragliders seeking adventure. Whether you visit in the vibrant summer or the quiet stillness of winter, a small voluntary donation is all it takes to step into this gravity-defying masterpiece. Meteora stands as a breathtaking testament that when the ground becomes too crowded and too dangerous, humanity will reach for the clouds. But if you think suspending your life in mid-air is the ultimate limit of madness, then hold on tight to your seat. Because at the next stop, people don't choose to escape into the sky. They choose to take root right in the heart of a hell with no way out. And if Meteora is where humans rise toward the sky in search of faith, then in a place completely opposite, where there seems to be nothing but sand and dryness, there exists something almost impossible. That is Huacachina, a natural oasis located in the desert of southwestern Peru. In a place where there should be nothing but harsh sunlight and winds sweeping across scorching sand. A small green lagoon appears, surrounded by massive sand dunes, like frozen waves in a dry ocean. Seen from above, Huacachina looks like a mirage, a dream lost within reality. But it is real, and it has existed for hundreds of years. In the 1940s, this place was once a famous resort for Peru's upper class. To the point that its image was printed on the back of the 50 Nuevo Sol banknote as a symbol of rare beauty amid harshness. Around the lagoon, a small town has formed, where people live, rest, and even turn the desert into a playground. Dune buggies race across the sand like roller coasters, and sand borders slide down slopes dozens of meters high, turning this into one of the strangest experiences on the planet. But the most astonishing thing is not those activities, but the very existence of Huacachina itself. Nature seems to take a certain pleasure in toying with us. Just moments ago, we were treasuring every drop of water in the desert. Now, prepare yourself to be quite literally submerged in Mawsynram, India, the wettest place on Earth. With an astonishing annual rainfall of 11,880 millimeters, this place is 11 times wetter than Glasgow and 22 times wetter than London. The culprit is the massive monsoon winds sweeping in from the Bay of Bengal, crashing into the towering wall of the Himalayas and forcing the clouds to wring themselves dry over days on end. The record came in June 2022, when rainfall reached 1,003 millimeters, more than London receives in an entire year combined. Living under this relentless curtain of rain is a true test of the nerves. Locals often find staying indoors unbearable, as the pounding rain on tin roofs creates a deafening noise that can trigger splitting headaches. In fact, many school classes have to be cancelled because students simply cannot hear their teachers. Farming is nearly impossible, so all essential goods must be imported and tightly sealed against mold. While roads are often torn apart by water almost as soon as they are repaired. And yet, in a twist of irony, this very harshness generates income. Each year, around 10,000 visitors, mainly from the United States and the United Kingdom, travel here during the peak monsoon season, June to September, just to experience what it feels like to be punished by the sky. But the cruelest twist comes at the end. When the monsoon ends in October, the wettest place on the planet suddenly falls into drought. Reservoirs run dry, forcing residents into an intense battle for water. With access limited to just 2 hours in the morning and evening. It's a bitter paradox, yet it proves one thing. No matter how harshly nature pushes, the human will to endure remains remarkably unyielding. But if you think this is the ultimate limit of human endurance, don't look away just yet. Our journey is drawn deeper into an entirely different realm of human existence, where the Earth itself seems to rise up as if to swallow the sky. Beneath the shadow of the Himalayas, the Tibetan Plateau emerges, cold, desolate, and unforgiving. At elevations above 4,500 meters, the air is thin. Ultraviolet radiation scorches the skin, and icy winds freeze nearly all forms of life. Every breath becomes a battle when oxygen levels drop to just 60%, and even water boils at only 85 degrees Celsius. Every rule of survival seems to urge people to flee, yet here they choose to kneel. Pilgrims undertake the sacred journey of full-body prostration, stretching themselves across frozen ground for hundreds of kilometers, using their own bodies to measure devotion. In this land of extremes, Buddhism does not merely exist, it takes deep root, revealed in precariously perched monasteries and prayer flags fluttering fiercely through snowstorms. That faith also lives on in the sky burial ritual, where the body is returned to nature, completing the cycle of life. Unique customs, such as polyandry, have also emerged as adaptations to this harsh environment, where survival outweighs conventional norms. Beneath the surface lie layers of mystery intertwined with science, the phenomenon of the rainbow body, where a person is said to dissolve into light, and the EPAS-1 genetic adaptation that enables Tibetans to thrive in low oxygen conditions. Alongside these are the legends of Shambhala and the majestic Potala Palace, powerful symbols of authority and faith. And as we trace the footsteps of history through places like Shannon, Yumbulagang, Sami, Yamdrok, and Shigatse, one truth becomes clear. Tibet is not merely a place where people survive. It is where they transcend the limits of what it means to be human. If overwhelming floods nearly suffocated life at the previous stop, then at our 9th destination, water becomes a luxury so rare it can cost you your life. This is Death Valley in California, the largest, driest, and most scorching national park in North America. Here, the land proudly holds the record for the highest temperature ever recorded on Earth, 56.7 degrees Celsius in 1913. The valley's ominous name dates back to the California gold rush of 1849, when a group of fortune seekers, chasing dreams of wealth, lost their way here. Although only one person actually died, the searing thirst and relentless heat turned their journey into a haunting struggle for survival. Those who made it out alive carried the name Death Valley with them forever, etched deep into memory. Yet along this razor-thin line between life and death lies an eerie and mesmerizing beauty. From Badwater Basin, the lowest point in North America, sitting 86 meters below sea level, with its blinding white salt flats, to vast rolling sand dunes and towering canyons, the landscape feels almost surreal. Most astonishing of all is the rare phenomenon known as a super bloom. With just a fragile touch of rain, millions of seeds buried beneath the sand awaken all at once, weaving a vibrant carpet of wild flowers across the desert. It is a perfect paradox, where death itself seems to exalt beauty. But if the blistering heat of 56 degrees Celsius still isn't enough to make you hesitate, then hold on tight. Because the next stop will take you to a place where darkness and bone-chilling cold freeze even the final heartbeat inside your chest. If Death Valley is a furnace that drains every last drop of water for survival, then the next stop traps humanity in a bitter paradox, drowning in the very thing the desert longs for most. This is Venice, Italy, a masterpiece that does not rise from solid ground, but floats across more than 100 small islands, woven together by a labyrinth of canals, like something out of a haunting dream. Yet behind that visually deceptive romance, Venice carries a quiet death sentence. It is slowly disappearing. Built centuries ago on fragile, marshy foundations, the city is gradually sinking, while rising sea levels inch closer to swallowing it whole. The danger here does not roar. It disguises itself in the phenomenon known as aqua alta, sudden high tides that can transform plazas and streets into waterways within hours. In those moments, the entire city shimmers like a vast mirror, breathtaking, yet heavy with unease. And still, the people remain. They move by boat, raise the floors of their homes, and tirelessly learn how to breathe in rhythm with the tides. Yet one piercing question lingers on the water's surface. How long can Venice continue to stand with pride? This place stands as a chilling reminder. Sometimes, the threat of destruction does not come from violent extremes, but from the softest, most gentle force of all, quietly, steadily consuming everything before we even realize it. Shake off the lingering fear of sinking beneath the waters of Venice, because now we're heading straight into a place where even a single drop of moisture is the stuff of legend. Stop 11. Atacama Desert, Chile, the oldest non-polar desert and the driest place on Earth. Using San Pedro de Atacama as your base, you step into an entirely different dimension. Don't assume a desert is nothing but barren sand. This place is nature's wild masterpiece, filled with towering volcanoes, steaming geysers, and breathtaking high-altitude lagoons. The most surreal highlight is Valle de la Luna, Moon Valley, a landscape so strikingly similar to Mars that NASA once brought robotic prototypes here for testing before sending them into space. To truly explore this alien planet, renting your own vehicle is the ultimate gamble for freedom, though the roads are harsh and the costs can quickly burn through your wallet. The rules of survival here are simple. Carry a thick stack of cash, because ATMs are nearly non-existent, and book everything in advance. but the reward is beyond measure. Driving yourself across the fiery red terrain of Piedras Rojas, watching proud flamingos glide across vast salt flats, or taking in the sweeping beauty of the wind-swept Miscanti Lagoon will leave you in awe. And when night falls, Atacama's cloudless sky transforms into the greatest natural observatory on Earth. Expensive and physically demanding as it may be, Atacama remains a privilege. It proves a beautiful paradox. To touch the most extraordinary wonders, people are willing to pay any price, to be exiled, if only for a moment, into another world right here on Earth. And if Atacama made you feel as though you had wandered onto another planet, then on the far side of the Himalayas lies a place that is not unfamiliar, yet remains set apart from the world in a very different way. That place is Bhutan, a small kingdom hidden among towering mountains, where isolation is not a weakness, but a choice. Shielded by rugged terrain and a deliberate effort to preserve its identity, Bhutan exists almost outside the hurried current of the modern world. Here, life unfolds along steep mountain slopes, where every road is a journey of endurance. The terrain is rough and unforgiving, with sharp turns clinging to the edges of deep ravines, making travel both breathtaking and unsettling. There are places without internet, without ATMs, a near-complete separation where you are compelled to disconnect from the outside world. Yet within that isolation, Bhutan has preserved something many places have lost: a strong, enduring traditional culture where people live slowly, live deeply, and remain closely connected to nature and their spiritual beliefs. Monasteries perch precariously on cliff faces, and prayer flags flutter in the wind, creating an atmosphere that is both serene and sacred. And perhaps the greatest paradox of all is that in such a harsh and isolated place, Bhutan is known as the happiest kingdom in the world. Not because they have more, but because they need less. After all the extreme places we have traveled through, where heat scorches the skin, cold numbs the body, and rain falls without end, Bhutan reveals something entirely different. Sometimes what is truly extreme is not found in nature, but in the way people choose to live within it. And if in Bhutan, people find happiness in stillness and isolation, then deep within the heart of the Sahara Desert lies a place where life exists almost like a miracle. Siwa Oasis, Egypt. Hidden far within the vast desert, Siwa appears as a lush green paradise, nearly cut off entirely from the outside world. It is not only home to the ancient Berber people, but also a land rich with its own history and identity, so much so that until the late 19th century it existed almost independently, separated from the rest of Egypt. In a place where there should be nothing but sand and searing heat, there are clear freshwater springs, groves of vibrant palm trees, and a community that has endured for centuries. Yet life here is far from easy. By day, temperatures can push the human body to its limits, while nights bring an unexpected, biting cold, a stark and familiar contrast of the desert. This isolation has shaped a distinct culture, from language and customs to architecture. Homes built from salt and earth, though seemingly fragile, have withstood the harsh environment for generations. Endless stretches of sand roads are enough to make anyone feel small and easily lost. And yet within that very isolation, Siwa holds a beauty unlike any other, quiet, profound, and almost untouched by the pace of the modern world. If Huacachina is an oasis, like a fleeting dream, then Siwa is a dream that has endured long enough to become history. And perhaps, in a world that grows more connected by the day, places like Siwa remind us that sometimes isolation is not a barrier, but the very thing that allows a culture to survive. The next destination in this journey takes us along the rugged slopes of the Himalayas, deep into the ancient kingdom of Mustang in Nepal, a place hidden in the extreme isolation of the roof of the world, where one of humanity's greatest mysteries still lingers. Look up at those barren cliffs. Do you see thousands of dark eyes silently staring down into the valley? Those are the Mustang Cliff Caves, a vast network of around 10,000 man-made caves suspended hundreds of meters above the ground, carved more than 2,000 years ago. Yes, you heard that right. Two millennia ago, when excavation tools were likely far more primitive than we can imagine today, an unknown civilization decided that sheer vertical cliffs were the perfect place to build their homes. These caves were not simply a luxury apartment complex of prehistoric times. Over thousands of years, they have served multiple purposes with remarkable precision. From burial chambers filled with mysterious human remains, to fortified shelters during brutal wars, to sacred spiritual spaces for monks and practitioners. The most astonishing part? Many of these hanging caves are connected by a network of narrow tunnels, carved through the mountain itself. Clearly, visiting the neighbors in Mustang would require the skills of a professional climber, along with a fair amount of courage or recklessness. To this day, the Kingdom of Mustang still preserves its raw beauty and profound spiritual heritage. Yet the biggest question continues to linger in the thin air: who built them? And by what miracle were they able to carve 10,000 massive openings into sheer rock walls without a single modern safety harness? Scientists are still scratching their heads, while Mustang stands quietly, guarding its secrets. Sometimes it feels as though these cliffs are smiling back at us, reminding us that some ghosts of the past will forever remain beyond human understanding. Leaving behind Siwa, where life blooms like a mirage in a sea of sand, our journey takes us to a place where life does not spread outward, but instead contracts. Clinging tightly to sheer cliffs just to survive. Phuktal Monastery, deep within the Zanskar Valley. The path leading here feels like a fragile thread stretched between two worlds. On one side, cold, towering rock walls. On the other, a deep, mesmerizing turquoise river. Beautiful enough to captivate you, yet dangerous enough that a single misstep could send you straight to the short version of this journey. The deeper you go, the rougher the road becomes, steep, nearly vertical in places. The thinning air makes every breath feel heavy, as though it carries the full weight of the mountains. And then, in the midst of all that harshness, the monastery appears, like a massive honeycomb clinging to the cliffside, suspended above the Sarup River. Not the kind of beauty that feels gentle, but the kind that makes you stand still for a few seconds, just to be sure you're not imagining it. name Phuktal means Cave of Liberation. Over 2,000 years ago, this place was nothing more than a solitary cave where a monk began his journey of renouncing the world. Over time, others came and stayed, not because it was easy to live here, but because it was remote enough for them to truly find themselves. Inside the monastery, butter lamps flicker softly, ancient murals carry the colors of time, and the slow rhythm of chanting echoes through the air. As if every sound is aware that it exists in a place untouched by noise. Perhaps it is precisely because the journey is so difficult that those who arrive here are not simply travelers seeking beauty, but souls searching for stillness in a world that has never truly been quiet. And as we leave behind the cliffs where people cling in search of stillness, the journey takes us lower. To a place where the ground itself can no longer be trusted, and life must learn to float above the water. This is Palafitos, colorful stilt houses lining the shores of the Chiloé archipelago in southern Chile, where land and sea blend together until the boundary nearly disappears. These wooden homes stand on sturdy stilts driven deep into the seabed, designed to withstand tides, waves, and the relentless rains that fall year-round. Their flexible structure allows them to breathe with the movement of the water, enabling them to endure rather than collapse. In other words, they do not resist nature. They learn to move with it, but that resilience comes at a cost. The sea winds are bitterly cold, the rains are constant, and the high humidity causes the wood to decay quickly, forcing residents to repair their homes again and again. Life here depends on the tides. When the water rises, everything flows smoothly. When it recedes, movement becomes difficult. And sometimes, a single powerful storm can make the entire village tremble, as if it might break free from its foundations. Yet amid all that hardship, Palafitos still shines in vivid hues of red, yellow, and blue, standing out against grey skies and cold waters. As if the people here are not just surviving, but determined to make life beautiful. From a distance, it looks like a peaceful painting. But once you are there, you realize that to stand firm in a place without true foundations, people must learn to balance between fragility and resilience. And if in Palafitos, people learn to live upon shifting waters, then somewhere else, nature offers no chance for adaptation. Only one choice: stay away. This is Snake Island, Ilha da Queimada Grande, off the coast of São Paulo, Brazil. A small island of just about 43 hectares, yet considered one of the most dangerous places on Earth. It is the domain of the golden lancehead viper, one of the most venomous snakes in the world. Their density is so high, it can reach 1 to 5 snakes per square meter. Which means nearly every step you take could place you beside a creature whose venom is powerful enough to dissolve living tissue within a short time. The Brazilian government has completely banned access to the island, not only to protect human life, but also to preserve the fragile ecosystem. But like any forbidden place, there are always those who try to reach it. Some researchers are granted special permission, traveling in groups, equipped with protective gear and specialized footwear, watching every step they take. Because a single moment of distraction can have immediate consequences. Others, more reckless, have paid the price. There are stories of fishermen who accidentally made landfall and never returned. Of illegal intrusions that ended in panic when they realized the ground beneath their feet was moving. Here, you are not the predator. You are the intruder. Snake Island is not a place for humans to conquer. It is a reminder that there are still places on Earth where nature holds absolute control. Leaving behind lands where nature pushes life to its limits, our journey arrives at its final destination. A place not overwhelmingly violent, but extreme in a very different way, near total isolation. Gásadalur, a small village on Vagar Island in the Faroe Islands of Denmark, rests against steep cliffs and faces the cold, open ocean. Before 2004, it was completely cut off, with residents able to reach it only by crossing the mountains or by helicopter. Even today, Though a tunnel now connects it to the outside world, the feeling of separation lingers in every cold gust of wind that sweeps through the village. Life here is far from easy. With only a handful of residents, they are accustomed to year-round rain, long winters, and storms that can sever all connections. Their livelihoods revolve around farming, fishing, and a small amount of tourism. Yet isolation makes everything more difficult, from accessing goods to maintaining daily life. In a place where neighbors can be counted on one hand and the wind often speaks more than people do, peace does not always mean comfort. From the southern coastline, the view unfolds like a surreal painting. Grass-roofed houses nestle beneath towering cliffs, while in the distance, the Mawsynram waterfall plunges straight into the ocean, creating a scene both majestic and still. And perhaps, after all the hottest, coldest, and most dangerous places we have explored, this is the final form of extremity. Not where nature threatens human life, but where silence itself forces you to confront who you are. Where the greatest challenge is not survival, but living in a world with so little noise.